Session on creating content that's intelligent. The presenter is Nibu, so probably I would hand over him the stage so that he could introduce himself. Thank you, Nibu. A big round of applause to Nibu.
Thank you. Welcome all intelligent people. Let me show you what's ahead. We'll discuss what intelligent content is, but before that, we'll look at, is the human race becoming more intelligent? And what does that mean for help content? What is intelligent content? How easy is it to create such content? We'll look at some examples, and then we'll summarize, and then you'll have some time for questions and answers. This is something about me. I have 20 plus years of work experience. I currently work with Whatfix as a senior documentation manager. I'm also the editor for the PMI Bangalore chapter newsletter. We put out a newsletter every month. If you're interested in contributing articles that are actually published in a newsletter, do contact me. I'm a certified PMP, Six Sigma Black Belt, CUA from Human Factors, which is usability. I've also been the president of the STC India chapter for the year 2017. If you had attended the Bangalore conference, that was when I was the president. So let me talk to you about the Flynn's effect. So how did I come across this particular topic? I have a daughter. When she was very small, my wife used to make up different stories to feed her. So one of the stories was like, if you eat apples, you will have rosy cheeks, like Snow White. And she came up, with a pat reply. She said, "You've been eating apples for so long. Where's your rosy cheeks?" and that made me think, with my experience with my mom. So I'm a big believer in WYSIWYG spellings. So when I was like 3 years or something, the spelling of 100 was HUNRED. The way you hear it, that's how it is spelled. And nobody could convince me otherwise. So there was one gentleman who came and talked to me, and I was only 3 years old. He came and asked me, "Will they give my daughter admission in your school?" So then I asked him, "Does she know the spelling of 100? so my mother was, flabbergasted. And I used to think, so I saw a pattern there. So my mother used to ask me, "Why are you asking me such questions? We never asked our parents these questions." And I wanted to know if people are becoming more intelligent. And I went into Google and I searched, are children more intelligent than their parents were? And sure enough, it came up with this Flynn's effect. And what it basically says is it's true, that every 10 years, the IQ of each generation increases by 3 points, which means that if your great-grandparents were supposed to take the IQ test, they would be borderline retarded. And this data was collected across 30 countries. And there's another interesting concept or a phenomenon, which is the reverse Flynn's effect. In certain countries, actually the IQ is going down, which is a good thing for us, actually. So before we go into intelligent content, let me be a little interactive with you and ask you, what is intelligence? Maybe one or two of y'all. What do you think is intelligence? How do you define it? Anybody? Perfect. You took out exactly what I wanted to say. There are many solutions, there are many definitions to intelligence, but what really struck me is, it is simply the ability to solve a problem. Okay? Now keep that in mind. Before we go into what is this rising intelligence and how does it impact our help content, let's look at what are the problems that we are trying to solve with our help content. Okay? Somebody wants to take some guesses. Why do you create content? What are the problems that you're trying to solve? Very quickly. Anybody? Okay, troubleshooting. Concepts, explaining concepts, very good. Training the user. Okay, understanding of the feature of the product. Simplifying the complex, explaining a task, explaining conceptual information, addressing a knowledge gap, correcting user behavior, increasing feature discoverability. Now we'll talk about discoverability. There's a little difference between discoverability and findability. Increasing product usage, reducing downtime, preempting issues, reducing costs. Do you all agree with all these? And finally, returning more product value. Okay? So what are the issues with today's content? They're disparate. What does a disparate mean? They're in different places. You have internal content, you have external content, and people, when they're looking for content, they don't know whether to go and search there or here, right? It's not contextual. You can't find information. I mean, how many of you actually look at what your users are searching for, the phrases that they actually use, and whether they are actually matching in with the content or the phrases that you've used in your content, right? Too much of information, right? Overload, information overload. Now, this is a nice little icon that I got from Flat Icons, and it says that your content is static. You have a link in your application, your users click it and are taken to a flat document, and they read about it and they come back, right? So it's like pedaling on this cycle. You're pedaling with all your effort, and you're burning calories, but you're not getting anywhere. How many of you know about this term, affordance? Anybody? What does affordance mean? So it's a UX term that means it's simply how attractive something looks to me. Like if you have a button in UX, right? How likely am I going to click it? So there is something called as content affordance. You create content, it is readable and people can understand it, but will they actually get to the end of it? So that's what I mean when I say content affordance. So that's a problem. And as we go through the presentation, you will see that some of our tools actually prevent content affordance from happening. Many of our tools are created with the content creator in mind, to make life easy to create content. And that kind of hinders what the end user experience is. Discoverability. Now, I did mention, what is the difference between findability and discoverability? Discoverability? Both places content is available. Yeah. Yeah. Even when you're not looking for, you find information, right? So how discoverable is your content? Now, your knowledge base is sitting somewhere else. Your product is here. Is it being discoverable? Is your content discoverable? No, right? So that's an issue. Relevance. How relevant is your content? Your product has restrictions by role, right? Not everybody can use everything. So why should your content be available to all? One size fits all. Imagine you had the ability to find out how much the user already knew and then showed them what they needed to know to build the knowledge graph. Is that possible? Process, like I mentioned, all of our processes make life easy for us to create content. But if you look at it, what is the impact on the end user? When we create content for translation, what is the impact on the end user? We are using very consistent words, but like I said, content affordance. If you want somebody to read something, he should feel like getting to the end of it, right? If you use standard phrases and words that with the sole intent of it being easy for translation, what is the impact on readability? Will the user want to read till the end of a document? So our processes, another thing for process is many of us, when we are forced to use the process that development is using, right? So if you want to change a full stop or a comma, we have to get into that Jira process and follow the same thing that they're doing to make a change in the line of code. What if we could split out these efforts, right? You create the content, you create your product on one side, I will create my content on one side, and I have complete freedom and independence to publish wherever I want to inside the product. What if you had the ability to do that? So all of these issues are resulting in what? Look at some of these statistics, and this is from Nielsen. Only 10 to 20% of your users get to the end of a page, right? Only 20% of content on any page is read. 55% of all content gets less than 15 seconds of user time. And B2B content, 65% of it remains unread. So all those white papers and all of that. And then we have the goldfish problem. Attention spans. In 2008, the goldfish had a higher attention span than humans, and then they stopped measuring. So let's just make a better product. Great argument. But what is, while we have that argument, I want to also make a point that the best content cannot make up for a poorly designed product, right? So there was one recent WhatsApp conversation on the Bangalore WhatsApp group, and one writer wanted to know, she said that the developer was insisting that she put in a line that says you have to wait for 30 seconds, right, and then continue. And she said, can we put a step like that? What would you say? You understood what I'm saying? There is a step where the user has to wait. And in the document, they are saying, as a step, wait for 30 seconds between step 4 and step 5 is wait for 30 seconds, and step 6 is whatever the next step is. What do you think? Does she need to put that step? How do you fix that problem? Exactly. So you should know when to push back. What should be documented? What should be fixed in the product, right? You have that serenity prayer, right? God, give me the serenity to know, right? I wish we had a serenity prayer for technical writers. God, give me the serenity to know what I should document and what I should not, and to know what is the difference, right? But let's build a better product. But what is the fact? What products are getting more complex? Look at CRMs. So look at the number of functionality that they cram into a product, right? What happens when you go on increasing functionality? Your product experience drops. So is there a solution? Now I am proposing something called intelligent content. And how did we define intelligence? It's the ability to solve a problem. We'll come back to this video if we have time, but I want to show that. Please remind me this. It's in another slide. So for content to be intelligent, I think the first principle is try and involve the user. I found this a great quote. I couldn't really attribute it to anybody because it gave me different names. It's the internet. So it says, tell me and I'll forget, show me and I'll remember, involve me and I will understand. So how much are we involving our users? Engage with the user. Your user has 5 different senses. How many of the senses are you using with just text? So we had a brilliant experience during the 2016 conference where we came up with a book. I wouldn't call it a book. It was more of an experience because it was not just text. So it had videos online, and we could actually scan a page and it would read out the content to us. So it was a very delightful experience. I was one of the editors along with Anindita. I'm sure you know who she is. But it was, curating that content, collecting the content, it was really a great experience. So it kind of, the focus of that was to engage with as many senses as possible. Left brain, right brain, use some brain, right? Help must be contextual. It needs to be where the user needs it, when the user needs it, right? And that kind of explains what context is about. So help must be part of your user's everyday workflow. If you're trying to introduce something into the user's life, where would you put it? Would you put it on a knowledge base that is somewhere else and you have the product experience here? So one of our companies that I worked with wanted to inform employees about changing things. It was basically HR announcements, and they wanted a place where they could get the attention and the eyeballs of all employees. So somebody suggested, let's put it in the escalators. Then they realized some people take the stairs. So then they came up with this bright idea that, there is one place that everybody has to go. Where is that? Restrooms. So we had notice boards there. Catch the attention of the user. Very often I find that content is like the tree that fell in the forest, right? If a tree falls in the forest, did it really fall? Did it exist? How do you enable discoverability? So let's say your product has been enhanced and you've added a new tab in the product. Can it look different from the remaining UI? It cannot, right? It has to be more or less like the other tabs. So how do you catch the attention of the user to something new? Do you go and create content saying that there is a new tab? You have to show the experience. You have to show the difference where the user is, right? And all of these have an answer. I'll come to that. Information must be bite-sized. It must be short and small. Remember the goldfish problem. Small piece of information. It must be just in time and just enough in content. You should be able to provide information by knowing who your user is. You have his login details. Can you find out how much he already knows? This is possible. And it should not be overwhelming. Intelligent content must be easy to maintain. Now, what if I tell you that every time your UI changes, if the change is not significant, you don't have to touch your documentation? Would you believe that? It's possible. What if I told you that, how many of you have gone through content migrations, moving from one tool to another? I think everybody, right? What if I told you that the last content migration that you did can be your last? You don't have to do any more content migration. Intelligent content can improve productivity. So, what is your help experience today? So, you have your product, you have a link, your users click the link, and they're taken to a page. And they read the page, they come back and perform the task. What if you could click that link and the task could happen? Instead of you providing information, you could actually perform the task. Can that be done? Yes. What if you can talk to Siri or Alexa? We have the Alexa person sitting behind. And Siri or Alexa, these chatbots can interact with your application by speech. Even that is also possible. Like I mentioned, so why do we have to follow the same process that development is using to create code? Can we de-link creating content on your application from the remaining development that happens on your application? And the answer is yes. Can we publish at will? Let's say, like I said before, I forgot to put a full stop. Can I go and make a change without going in through that, through the development cycle? I'm just making a full stop. I'm not touching the remaining code. Intelligent content does not replace your existing content. It embraces it. So content can be bidirectional. That means you create content once and you have multi-formats, right? And your existing content can also be brought inside. So I will tell you more about that. Multi-format is you create once and you have the same time you have a video, the same time you can create a PDF, and you update this flow once, and all of that gets updated. Sometimes you don't even need to do the updation if your elements remain the same. Multilingual, how easy is it to create content in different languages? So I'm sure many of you all work with more than one language. Yeah, this we already talked about. What if you had analytics about how your users are using your content, and this can be at a step level? They went through 3 steps and then stopped, or they just dropped out, right? They went to something like this. How many people were able to get to the end of a procedure? And this is collected inside your product while they are performing. This is actually analytics of help, not analytics of a product, whether they used your help to do something. So this is one of the ways how you can do all of the things that I just mentioned. Okay. Whatfix is a digital adoption platform. So that's a mouthful. Well, what we do is we allow you to create a layer of content over any web application. So how do you do that? And what kind of content are we talking about? We are talking about a walkthrough or what is called as guided learning. So you have your application and you want to take users through a particular task. So it tells the user, and you have identified 5 or 6 things that any first-time user needs to know. So when they log in, they get a small video. They click on the video that gives them information. And all of this is, you have not actually embedded it inside your product. You're creating this apart from your product, right? You're creating this on Whatfix. You create this, and then you create this this video, and then there is a guide me button that probably does a product walkthrough. It tells you, okay, this is where you do this, this is where you do this, and it has these balloons that actually show you what is being done. It allows you to de-link help creation from development. So, like I mentioned, processes shouldn't take more time than the change itself. If you're following a process, it should help you. If it is not helping you, then it's time to rethink that process. We have something called content aggregation. So, like I mentioned, what the last content migration that you did may have been your last. If you embrace Whatfix, Whatfix has the ability to crawl your existing knowledge base and bring your content and present it contextually inside your application. Users don't need to go outside your application. This can be done both at a role level and at a location level. So if they are in a particular tab on your application or a particular page, they see different content depending on who they have logged in as. What are some of the use cases that we cater to? Onboarding. So we have something called as a task list, which basically says that you need your users to be aware of 6 things. Let's say you're a bank, right? You need to know these 6 things that any user, first-time user logs in, they need to know these 6 things. How do you enforce that? So we have something called as a task list, which opens up on the left side. We have actually a few tabs in our booth. You can actually look at that. I actually need the internet to show you this. So do stop by our booth and look at how this is done. You can also ask for a demo and a POC. We can show you what is your return on investment. So onboarding is one of the use case. Continuous training is another use case. So one statistic that I forgot to tell you was, any training that is done is 70% of it is lost unless you reinforce it. In a year's time, 70% of the training is lost. So you need to have something that is continuously helping the user. That one-time training is not enough. Self-service is like contextual help. Form field validation. So anytime you have a field, a form, right? You have multiple forms, fields. And what happens is you enter all of this information, then go and click submit, and then this thing lights up like a Christmas tree. So what we do is we help you do provide this validation at a field level. So if you made a mistake, and this is like if you have to put in only numbers, or if your first letter should be a capital or something like that, it tells you right there that you need to correct it. It's not at the end where you click the submit that you have to do all of. Sometimes you even lose information. Change management, I'm sure you know how to, you can imagine what is the application of this. Like, for example, like I said, you may not be able to change the color of your tabs, but we have a feature called as the beacon, which you can actually place on top of something new that you have introduced. It kind of pulsates and catches the attention of a user. So it appears like it's part of your product, but it's a very neat experience. And when they click it, they can be shown a video, or they can be guided through how to perform that task. So what is the time to deploy, and how exactly do we deploy? So there are two ways to deploy Whatfix. So one is, you own the code of your application, right? So if you own the code of your application, this 2-line JavaScript that is embedded either in a header or some page that is across your application. If you don't, then we have something called as browser extensions, from where this content is shown. You have control over where you want to host this content and where it is being pushed from. It can be hosted on our servers, it can be hosted in your servers, it can be a private server. What is the time to deliver? How quickly can you create a flow? So a flow is basically, if you know how to perform the task, that's as fast as you can create a flow. It's just going and clicking, performing the task. Let's say it's a 6 steps task. You go and click once, and all the the screen is captured, the tip is created, even the text is auto-populated. You have the ability to change this text, edit this text. The complete look and feel is entirely in your control. It can look like it is part of your application. And you can see these, we have tabs in our booth. Please come and see how it works. We've also done something interesting. So when we imagine, the workflow, somebody has created this workflow, right? It guides the user through a particular process. And this has to be done repeatedly. Let's say you're creating an invoice or a bill. So we have automated it in a manner so that these, let's say 4 or 5 steps are just clicks, right? So when we automate it, and when the user says, show me how to do this, the 4 or 5 clicks are done by the tool. And it comes to a place where there is a user input. So imagine if it's a repetitive task, it can really improve productivity. Let's say you're looking for the number of leads that you have as a salesperson, or your leave balance. We work on HRMS tools as well. It's 6 steps to get your leave balance, right? What if this is run in the background? Somebody is creating this flow. Somebody shows Whatfix that these are the 6 steps to be done. You do this, but how is the end user experience is that you click this link, what is my leave balance? These 6 steps run in the background, fetches that number and displays it right there. So you don't have to click 5 times. If there is a value that you have to get at the end of a procedure, it can be displayed right there, and the user it's single click. Another thing that this is like some of our customers. We have more than 100 of the Fortune 500 companies working with Whatfix. We work with NASA, Amazon, so security parts are really well thought of. We don't read any information from your application. All analytics is reported only on the help content, on how Whatfix is used, and not on your product. So, so one of the things that I mentioned is, our help has always been one size fits all. So can that be different? What if you are able to ask questions to your audience, find out how much they know, and then based on that, bridge the gap? So we have something that helps you create surveys that you roll out through a user, find out what he knows, and you map this out to certain scenarios where you can present this content. And what is the impact of implementing Whatfix? So this is not something that I pulled out of my pocket. This is something that we have actually done a case study on, and these are very conservative numbers. We have seen much bigger numbers, much more impactful work that Whatfix has done. So your support overhead is reduced by 45%. So imagine the power of the solution. Like, one of the outputs that you create when you do a walkthrough is a link called a See Live link. This See Live link can be sent to a customer from documentation, right? What happens when the customer clicks on that link? They are taken to your application, they log in and guided through the flow. So it's like hand-holding them through a particular flow. Training cost has reduced by 35%. Like I said, training has to be continuous. You do a elaborate training in the beginning, but after some time people forget. So we help make sure that at any point of time you can roll out training, you can force users to make sure that they complete these 5-6 tasks, or they at least know they watch this video. You have the ability to put different kinds of content. You have textual content, you have flows, you have videos. You can also link to other content, and you can ensure that your training is taken care. Productivity increases by 25%. I showed you, one of the ways that we are doing that. So that's the tell them what you didn't tell them slide. So we discussed some part of what is intelligence, why your content must be intelligent, one of the ways by which you can create a more intelligent experience for your end users, what is the impact of creating such content, and what's next? You be an influencer in your organization. See, we believe that we are technical writers, we are not decision makers, but look at what is the power of this solution. Does it make an impact in your lives? If you have a chance to look at the tabs, they'll show you exactly how much time it takes to create this content, right? If it's like a 10-step procedure, it's just going and clicking on the elements. The flows and bubbles and everything is auto-generated. So content creation comes down by a big time. What about your end user experience, right? Look at how intuitive it is for the user. You're bringing all of this into your application. You are not taking them away from your application to teach them something or to show them something. So you can be an influencer. I used to be a customer of Whatfix, one of the first customers when Whatfix was just 2 people. And I really loved the solution. I'm thinking, this is something that I want. This is something that I was looking for. And I went and talked to my manager. I said, there is something like this. And this is like 4 or 5 years ago. And they looked at it. And of course, there was some apprehensions because there was only 2. The argument there was, what if a bus comes and hits one of them? Like 50% of the company is gone. So they were hiring at that time, and that it all worked out. But what I wanted to say is, you have a voice in your organizations. Go and talk about solutions like this. And this is not the only solution. Go look at our competitor products. And why Whatfix, right? The other competitor is not here. That's why. You can see that we have been sponsoring the STC conferences, and technical writers are one of our target audiences. So the feedback that comes back from technical writers is implemented into a product. That's the reason that we have multi-formats competitors don't have. That's the reason that we can integrate very quickly with your knowledge bases. And all of this is feedback that we have got from working with customers who have technical writers in their teams. This is some of the references. I'll be sharing the deck. Whatfix is also hiring. Whatfix is a skill. So this is a very different kind of a job that you would need to do. You would be creating content for a professional services team. So when we get a new customer and they are not interested in creating, it's not that it takes a lot of time. You can do it, but they just don't have the bandwidth. They say, we want so many flows to be implemented on so many pages. So then we offer them professional services, and we have writers who actually create content using Whatfix. So that team is hiring in Whatfix. If you are interested, you can reach out to our booth and leave your number there. What else? I think, yeah, we're good. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. The thing is, you need to see what the product does. So, If I had the internet connectivity, I could have actually showed you how it works. Many of the things that I mentioned about intelligent content, Whatfix can do. Oh yeah, the video. Okay, let me show you something else. It's not related to Whatfix, but so this is a video that I found on the net. Okay, you've heard about embedded help, right? So look at outbedded help. I don't know this. Okay. So they made sufficient holes in one, so they're taking the next one to continue. It's a two-part manual. Yeah, so if your help is outside the product, it should be like this. Okay. Out of the box. Yep, so that's all I had. So I think Sachin had a question.
Yeah, so on-screen help, excellent, right? So Whatfix is going to show you step by step in context, all of that. But have you tried working across two products, right?
Yes.
Especially
yes.
around integrations and achieving more using APIs and integration. Is there something in that space that you
Yes, there is.
that?
We have just started into that. We can work across products as well. So we have something called as Hello Quicko or something. So what it does is, like we said, right, if the application, if we don't own the application, there are browser extensions. So internally, our employees use Whatfix. There is a tab that appears anytime they open any browser, and they can find out about HR tools, which is a different tool. They can find out about your leave management, or they can find out about reimbursements. All these are different applications, and the help is provided. It's all consolidated and provided together. APIs also, they are currently extending. So that is coming. I mean, we just opened a couple of APIs. Any other questions? Did it fly over the head, or this is something that y'all can implement? I know y'all have the kitna deti hai question. So that's a different question. That's a different conversation you can take with the marketing and the sales team. So if you have no other questions.
Any questions? A big round of applause to Nibu Thomas for such an informative session.
So go and create intelligent content.